They tore down his American flag in the dead of night. Why? Because an HOA said it was too bright. You won't believe what happened next. In the serene, gated community of Eagle Heights, Arizona, where every lawn was trimmed to perfection and every mailbox matched, lived James Jim Callahan, a 52-year-old Marine Corps veteran who'd served 2 tours in Iraq. Jim wasn't just proud of his service. He wore it like a badge. Every morning, he'd raise the American flag on a polished pole in his front yard, a ritual that brought him peace and reminded him of the freedoms he'd fought for. The flag wasn't oversized or gaudy, it was regulation-sized, with a small solar-powered spotlight to keep it lit at night, as per flag code. Neighbors would nod respectfully when they passed, and kids on bikes would wave. For Jim, that flag wasn't just fabric, it was a symbol of sacrifice, honor, and home. But not everyone saw it that way. Margaret Voss, the 65-year-old president of the Eagle Heights Homeowners Association, or HOA, had a different vision for the neighborhood, one of uniformity and control. Margaret, a retired accountant with a penchant for rules, believed that individuality disrupted her carefully curated aesthetic. To her, Jim's flag was a problem. The spotlight, she claimed, was too bright and disturbed the nighttime ambiance. Never mind that it was barely brighter than a porch light, Margaret wanted it gone. One scorching July afternoon in 2024, Jim found a letter in his mailbox, stamped with the HOA's logo. It demanded that he remove the flag and spotlight within 24 hours, citing a vague rule about exterior lighting violations, or face a $3,000 fine. Jim was floored. He checked the HOA bylaws before moving in, and nothing banned flags. He called the HOA office, expecting a misunderstanding, but Margaret was unyielding. "This isn't about your service," she said coldly. "It's about maintaining standards." Jim refused to comply, telling her, "I fought for this flag and I'm not taking it down." The HOA didn't wait long to escalate. 2 nights later, around 1 a.m., Jim was jolted awake by a commotion outside. He grabbed his phone and ran to the window, only to see 3 men in dark hoodies, hired by the HOA, cutting down his flagpole with a hacksaw. The flag fell to the ground, and one of them slashed it with a utility knife, leaving it in tatters. By the time Jim got outside, the men were gone, speeding off in an unmarked van. All that remained was a crumpled pile of red, white, and blue, and a notice taped to his mailbox. A $3,000 fine for non-compliance, signed by Margaret Voss. Jim was livid but determined. He recorded the shredded flag, the sawed-off pole, and his shaking voice as he described what happened. He posted the video on X with the caption, "My HOA destroyed my American flag because it was too bright. This is wrong." Within hours, it exploded online, racking up 7 million views and igniting a firestorm. The hashtag number flag scandal trended nationwide, with veterans groups, politicians, and everyday Americans calling the HOA's actions unpatriotic and despicable. News vans parked outside Eagle Heights, and reporters interviewed stunned neighbors who'd had no idea about the HOA's plan. Jim wasn't alone for long. Sarah Nguyen, a 40-year-old nurse and single mom who lived next door, started a petition to oust Margaret from the HOA board. Tom Bradley, a local hardware store owner and fellow veteran, offered to replace Jim's flagpole for free. Dozens of residents joined a protest outside the HOA office, waving American flags and chanting, "Freedom isn't a violation." Some even planted small flags in their yards in solidarity, daring the HOA to act. The story hit national outlets like Fox News, CNN, and even late-night talk shows, with one host joking, "What's next, banning apple pie?" But Margaret Voss wasn't backing down. At an emergency HOA meeting, she defended her actions, claiming the flag's light disrupted property values and accusing Jim of stirring division. She upped the fine to $6,000 and threatened legal action against anyone who displayed unauthorized symbols. A few residents, worried about their own fines, started to distance themselves, whispering that Jim should have just followed the rules. Jim decided to fight back in court, with Sarah's petition gaining 10,000 signatures and Tom's help rallying local veterans. He hired a lawyer, Emily Carter, who specialized in HOA disputes. The legal battle stretched over 5 months, with Jim's story becoming a rallying cry for property rights and free expression. Emily uncovered that the HOA's lighting rule was ambiguously worded and likely unenforceable, and she presented photos of the shredded flag as evidence of vandalism. The courtroom was packed with supporters, many wearing flag pins, as Jim took the stand, his voice steady but emotional. That flag wasn't just mine, it was ours. In March 2025, the judge ruled in Jim's favor, declaring the HOA's actions illegal and a violation of his rights. The HOA was ordered to pay $15,000 in damages, cover Jim's legal fees, and drop all fines. The crowd outside the courthouse cheered as Jim raised a new American flag, donated by a local VFW chapter. For a moment, it felt like justice had won. But the drama didn't end. Margaret refused to resign, despite the loss. At the next HOA meeting, she stood defiant, calling Jim a publicity hound and blaming him for tearing the community apart. She convinced a small but loyal group of residents that her rules protected their investments, and she pushed through new regulations banning all non-approved exterior displays, effectively targeting flags again. Social media erupted with hashtag flag scandal posts, with some calling for a federal investigation into HOA powers. Today, Eagle Heights remains a battleground. Jim still flies his flag, brighter than ever, but he's faced subtle retaliation, anonymous complaints, delayed HOA services, and glares from Margaret's allies. Margaret, meanwhile, holds her position, her grip on the neighborhood unshaken. The torn flag sits in a frame in Jim's living room, a reminder of the fight that's far from over. Across America, his story has sparked debates about freedom, patriotism, and just how much power an HOA should have.